What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actors gets disrespected on live television by a host who thought she was untouchable? It only took 36 seconds for Tamron Hall to destroy her own interview and watch Denzel Washington walk away from her show forever. But before we expose what really went down, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, because we're pulling back the curtain on Hollywood's dark side, exposing entitled celebrities and their shocking behavior the cameras never showed you. We've got the raw footage they don't want you to see, and you won't want to miss a single reveal. Drop a comment below with your thoughts on this outrageous behavior, because what you're about to witness is absolutely unbelievable. The studio lights were hot that afternoon. Denzel Washington sat across from Tamron Hall on her daytime talk show set, looking as dignified as ever in his perfectly tailored suit. He'd come on the show to talk about his latest film, a passion project he'd been working on for years. The audience was packed, cameras were rolling, and everything seemed normal at first. Tamron smiled that bright television smile as she introduced him. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have the legendary Denzel Washington here today," she said, her voice dripping with that rehearsed enthusiasm talk show hosts are known for. Denzel nodded politely, giving a small wave to the cheering audience. He'd done 1,000 interviews just like this one. He knew the routine. "So Denzel," Tamron began, leaning forward in her chair like she was about to ask something profound. "This new movie of yours, I watched it last night, and I have to say, I was a little confused about your choice to take this role." Denzel's expression remained calm. "Confused how?" he asked, his voice measured and professional. Tamron waved her hand dismissively. "Well, I mean, you're Denzel Washington. You've won 2 Oscars. You're a legend. And here you are playing this ordinary character. Don't you think you're above this kind of role at this point in your career?" The audience went quiet. You could feel the tension starting to build. Denzel shifted slightly in his seat, maintaining his composure. "I don't think any role is beneath me if the story matters," he said carefully. "This character represents something real, something a lot of people go through." Tamron laughed, actually laughed, like what he said was funny. "Come on, Denzel, be honest with the audience. You took this role for the paycheck, right? Because it certainly wasn't for the artistic merit." Denzel's jaw tightened just a little. Anyone who knew him could see he was holding back. "Actually, Tamron, I took a pay cut to make this film because I believed in the message." "A pay cut?" Tamron said, her voice rising with mock surprise. "Now why would someone like you need to prove anything? You're already rich and famous. This just feels like, I don't know, desperation, maybe?" The audience gasped. Someone in the front row whispered, "Oh no, she didn't." Denzel took a slow breath. "I don't think wanting to tell meaningful stories is desperation. I think it's called having integrity." Tamron wasn't backing down. She leaned back in her chair with this smug look on her face. "Integrity? Is that what we're calling it now? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're trying too hard to stay relevant. Hollywood has moved on, Denzel. Maybe it's time you accepted that." You could see Denzel's expression change, not to anger, but to disappointment. Like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Stay relevant?" he repeated quietly. "Tamron, I came here today to talk about a film that deals with real issues that affect real people, but it seems like you're more interested in tearing people down than having an actual conversation." Tamron rolled her eyes, actually rolled her eyes on camera. "Oh please, don't play the victim card with me. You celebrities are all the same. You want us to worship you and never ask tough questions. Well, guess what? This is my show, and I ask whatever I want." "Tough questions are fine," Denzel said, his voice still controlled but firmer now. "Disrespect is something different entirely." "Disrespect?" Tamron laughed again, this time even louder. "You think you're being disrespected? Do you have any idea how lucky you are to even be on this show? I have a massive audience. I'm doing you a favor by having you here." That was the moment. That was when you could see something shift in Denzel's eyes. "A favor?" he said slowly. He stood up from his chair. The studio went completely silent. "Let me tell you something, Tamron. I've been doing this for over 40 years. I've worked with the best directors, the best actors, the best crews in this business. And in all that time, I've never been treated with such blatant disrespect." Tamron's smile faltered for just a second, but she tried to recover. "Oh, come on, Denzel, sit down. Don't be so sensitive. It's just television." "No," Denzel said firmly, reaching up to remove his microphone. "It's not just television. It's about basic human decency, something you clearly know nothing about." The audience was frozen. Cameras kept rolling. Nobody knew what to do. Tamron stood up too, her voice getting defensive. "Excuse me? You can't talk to me like that. This is my show, and I'm a guest on your show," Denzel replied, his voice rising now for the first time. "A guest you invited here. A guest you're supposed to treat with at least a minimal amount of respect. But you don't care about that, do you? You just want to create drama, tear people down, make yourself look important by making others look small." "I am important," Tamron shot back, her true colors really showing now. "I have millions of viewers. I make careers. I break careers. You should be grateful. I even agreed to have you on." Denzel shook his head slowly, that disappointed look deepening on his face. "You know what the sad thing is? You actually believe that. You actually think that having a television show makes you better than other people. That it gives you the right to belittle and demean anyone who sits in that chair." "I'm not belittling anyone," Tamron said, but her voice was getting shrill now, defensive. "I'm just being honest. Maybe you're just too used to everyone kissing up to you." Denzel had completely removed his microphone now. He set it carefully on his chair. "The difference between you and me, Tamron, is that I've never needed to put other people down to feel good about myself. I've never needed to insult and demean my guests to get ratings. That's not strength, that's insecurity." "Get out then," Tamron snapped, pointing toward the exit. "If you can't handle a real interview, then leave. Nobody's stopping you." "Oh, I'm leaving," Denzel said, straightening his jacket. "But not because I can't handle it. I'm leaving because I refuse to participate in whatever this is. I refuse to let you use me as a punching bag for your ego." Tamron's face was red now. "You're making a huge mistake, Denzel. Do you know how bad this is going to make you look? Walking off a show like some kind of diva?" Denzel turned to face her one last time. "I'd rather be called a diva for standing up for myself than be called a pushover for sitting here and taking your abuse. And for the record, the only person who's going to look bad when this airs is you." "We'll see about that," Tamron said, her voice dripping with venom now. "My producers and I can edit this however we want. We can make you look like the bad guy here. We have that power." And that's when Denzel smiled. Not a happy smile, a sad, knowing smile. "You can try," he said quietly, "but the truth has a way of coming out. And the truth is, you invited me here to promote my work, and instead you decided to attack me personally. You insulted my integrity, my career, my choices. You called me desperate and irrelevant. You told me I should be grateful just to be in your presence. All of that is on camera. All of that is recorded. So good luck spinning that." The audience was still completely silent. Some people were nodding. Some were recording on their phones. Everyone knew they were witnessing something big. Tamron's confidence was cracking. You could see it in her face. "This interview isn't over until I say it's over." "Actually," Denzel said calmly, "it's over when the guest decides they're not being treated with respect. And I decided that about 5 minutes ago. I just gave you multiple chances to correct course. You chose not to take them." He started walking toward the exit. Tamron called after him, her voice getting more desperate now. "Fine, walk away. Run away like a coward. This is exactly the kind of behavior that proves my point about you." Denzel stopped. He didn't turn around. He just spoke over his shoulder. "You know what, Tamron? I feel sorry for you. I really do. Because one day you're going to realize that treating people badly doesn't make you powerful. It just makes you alone." "I don't need your pity," Tamron shouted. "I don't need anything from you. You needed me enough to invite me here," Denzel said simply. Then he walked off the set. The cameras kept rolling. Tamron stood there, her chest heaving, clearly trying to figure out what to do next. Her producers were scrambling. The audience was murmuring. Some people were even getting up to leave. One of the producers rushed over to Tamron and whispered something in her ear. She shook her head violently. "No, we're not cutting to commercial. We're going to address this right now." She turned back to face the audience, that fake smile trying to creep back onto her face. "Well, folks, I guess we just saw Denzel Washington's true colors, didn't we?" Can't handle a little honest questioning. But the audience wasn't buying it. Someone in the middle section actually stood up and said, "You were really rude to him." Others started nodding and voicing their agreement. Tamron's smile disappeared completely. "Excuse me? I was doing my job. I was asking the tough questions that other interviewers are too scared to ask." "You called him desperate," another audience member called out. "You said he was irrelevant. That's not asking tough questions. That's just being mean." Tamron's face went red again. "I think you all need to understand something. This is my show, mine, and I will conduct interviews however I see fit. If you don't like it, there's the exit." More people started getting up to leave. Not just one or two, but whole rows of people. The producers were in full panic mode now, trying to signal to Tamron to stop talking, but she wasn't paying attention to them. "Fine, go," she yelled at the departing audience members. "We don't need you. We have millions of viewers at home." Millions. You think a few people walking out matters? But it did matter. Because those people leaving were going to talk. They were going to post on social media. They were going to tell their friends and family what they witnessed. And most importantly, there were cameras still recording every single second of Tamron's meltdown. One of her producers finally walked onto the set and physically put his hand on her shoulder. "Tamron, we need to cut to commercial. Now." She shrugged him off. "Don't touch me. I'm handling this." "You're not handling anything," the producer said, his voice urgent. "You're making it worse. We need to go to commercial and regroup." Tamron glared at him, but finally seemed to realize she'd lost control of the situation. "Fine," she snapped. She turned back to the remaining audience members and the cameras. "We'll be right back after this break." But they never came back. The show cut to commercial and never returned. Instead, they aired a rerun of an old episode. The footage of what happened, though, was already spreading like wildfire among the crew members who'd witnessed it. People were texting their friends, posting on social media. The story was getting out. Meanwhile, Denzel had left the building. His publicist was waiting for him outside, looking worried. "Are you okay?" she asked. "What happened in there?" Denzel took a deep breath of fresh air. "I got disrespected, and I didn't stand for it. That's what happened." "The network is probably going to spin this against you," his publicist warned. "They might try to make you look bad." Denzel shook his head. "Let them try. I know what happened. The audience knows what happened. And I have a feeling the truth is going to come out one way or another." He was right. Within hours, audience members were posting their recordings online. The video footage showed everything. Tamron's insults, her dismissive attitude, her escalating aggression, and most importantly, it showed Denzel remaining calm and dignified throughout, only leaving when it became clear he was being deliberately provoked and disrespected. The public reaction was swift and overwhelming. People were outraged at how Tamron had treated Denzel. Social media exploded with support for him and criticism of her. Hashtags started trending. Think pieces were written. Everyone was talking about it. Back in the studio, Tamron was in an emergency meeting with her producers and the network executives. They were watching the footage that had been posted online, and their faces were grim. "This is bad," one executive said. "This is really, really bad." "It's not that bad," Tamron insisted, but her voice lacked conviction now. "People will forget about it in a few days." "People aren't going to forget about this," another executive said firmly. "You insulted Denzel Washington, one of the most beloved actors in Hollywood, on camera, and then you had a meltdown when audience members called you out on it. This isn't going away." Tamron crossed her arms defensively. "I was just doing my job, asking tough questions." "Calling someone desperate and irrelevant isn't asking tough questions," the first executive said. "It's attacking them personally and telling him he should be grateful to be on your show. What were you thinking?" "I was thinking that I'm the host and he's the guest," Tamron said, but even she seemed to realize how weak that sounded now. The room fell silent for a moment. Then one of the producers spoke up. "We have a real problem here. The full footage is out there. We can't edit our way out of this. Everyone can see exactly what happened." "So what do we do?" Tamron asked. And for the first time, she sounded genuinely worried. "You need to apologize," an executive said firmly. "Publicly. And it needs to be sincere." Tamron's eyes widened. "Apologize? To him? After he walked off my show?" "He walked off your show because you were disrespectful to him," the executive said bluntly. "And now the whole world knows it. If you don't apologize, this is going to destroy your reputation." "My reputation is fine," Tamron said, but nobody in the room believed her, not even herself. The meeting went on for hours. Tamron argued and deflected and made excuses, but the reality was undeniable. She'd crossed a line. She'd treated a respected guest terribly on live television, and there was no way to undo it. The story became one of the biggest entertainment news items of the year. Every outlet covered it. Every talk show discussed it. Everyone had an opinion, and the overwhelming consensus was that Tamron had been completely out of line. Other celebrities started speaking up too, people who'd been guests on her show before. Some shared their own stories of being treated poorly. Others just expressed support for Denzel. The tide of public opinion was completely against Tamron. Denzel himself stayed quiet for a few days. He didn't need to say anything. The footage spoke for itself. When he finally did make a statement, it was brief and classy. "I went on that show in good faith to discuss my work," he said in a written statement. "I was met with hostility and disrespect. I chose to remove myself from that situation because I believe in treating people with dignity, and I expect the same in return. That's all I have to say on the matter. Simple, dignified, perfect." Tamron, meanwhile, was scrambling. Her team finally convinced her to issue an apology, but it was too little, too late, and it didn't sound sincere. It sounded like it was written by a committee of lawyers trying to do damage control. "I apologize if my interview style came across as aggressive," her statement read. "It was never my intention to make my guest uncomfortable. I have the utmost respect for Denzel Washington and his body of work." Notice the wording. If it came across as aggressive. Never my intention to make him uncomfortable. Not a real apology. Not an acknowledgement of what she actually did wrong. Just carefully worded corporate speak designed to protect her legally while admitting nothing. The public saw right through it. The backlash only intensified. Sponsors started pulling their ads from her show. Ratings dropped dramatically. The network was in crisis mode, and through it all, Denzel went about his business with the same grace and dignity he'd always shown. He promoted his movie. He did other interviews where he was treated with respect. He didn't trash-talk Tamron or gloat about the situation. He just moved forward, proving once again why he's one of the most respected figures in Hollywood. The contrast couldn't have been clearer. On one side, you had Denzel Washington, a legendary actor with decades of acclaim, walking away from disrespect with his head held high. On the other side, you had Tamron Hall, a talk show host who let her ego destroy her own interview and damage her reputation in the process. This whole situation showed something important about respect and how you treat people. It doesn't matter how successful you are or how big your platform is. If you treat people badly, eventually it catches up with you. And in Tamron's case, it caught up with her fast and hard. Denzel didn't need to defend himself because his actions spoke louder than any words could. He gave Tamron multiple chances to change course during that interview. He stayed calm. He tried to steer things back to a professional conversation, but when it became clear that she was more interested in tearing him down than having a real discussion, he made the decision to walk away. And that took courage. A lot of people in his position would have sat there and taken it, would have smiled through the insults because they didn't want to make waves or be seen as difficult. But Denzel understood something crucial. There's a difference between being professional and being a doormat. You can be polite and respectful while still standing up for yourself. You can remove yourself from toxic situations without being the bad guy. Tamron, on the other hand, showed what happens when someone gets a little bit of power and lets it go to their head. She truly believed that having a talk show made her important enough to treat a legendary actor like he was beneath her. She thought she could insult him, belittle his work, and question his integrity, and he would just sit there and take it because he needed her platform. She was wrong. The whole incident became a teaching moment about conduct and respect in the entertainment industry. It sparked conversations about how talk show hosts treat their guests, about the difference between asking tough questions and being deliberately antagonistic, about the responsibility that comes with having a platform. Many people pointed out that there are ways to challenge your guests and have substantive conversations without being disrespectful. You can disagree with someone's choices or push back on their statements while still maintaining basic courtesy and professionalism. Great interviewers know how to do this. They know how to create engaging television without resorting to personal attacks. Tamron failed at this completely. She confused confrontation with good interviewing. She thought that being aggressive and insulting made her look tough and uncompromising. Instead, it made her look petty and unprofessional. It made her look like someone who was more interested in creating drama than having meaningful conversations. The sad thing is, it didn't have to go this way. If Tamron had approached the interview with genuine curiosity and respect, it could have been great television. Denzel is known for being thoughtful and articulate in interviews when he's treated well. He has fascinating insights about his craft, about the industry, about the characters he plays. There was so much potential for a really interesting conversation, but Tamron threw all that away because she wanted to show how tough and edgy she was. She wanted to prove that she wasn't going to softball anyone, not even Denzel Washington. And in trying to prove that point, she ended up proving something entirely different, that she didn't understand the difference between being a good interviewer and being a bully. The aftermath of this incident continued to unfold for weeks. Think pieces were written analyzing every aspect of what happened. Media experts dissected the interview minute by minute. Entertainment lawyers discussed the legal implications. Everyone had something to say about it. Some people tried to defend Tamron, arguing that she was just doing her job and that celebrities should be able to handle tough questions. But those arguments fell flat because anyone who watched the footage could see that this wasn't about tough questions. This was about personal attacks and disrespect. There's a world of difference between challenging someone's artistic choices and calling them desperate and irrelevant. Others tried to make it about larger issues in the entertainment industry or society at large. But at its core, this was a simple story about one person treating another person badly and facing consequences for it. It wasn't complicated. It wasn't ambiguous. It was clear-cut. Denzel Washington came on a talk show to promote his work. The host decided to attack him instead of interviewing him. He tried to keep things professional. When that failed, he left. The end. Everything else was just fallout from those basic facts. And what a fallout it was. The incident became one of those cultural moments that people remember and reference years later. It became shorthand for what not to do as a talk show host. It became an example of how standing up for yourself with dignity and grace is always the right move. It became a reminder that treating people with respect matters, regardless of who they are or what platform you have. For Denzel, the incident ultimately reinforced what people already knew about him, that he's a class act who carries himself with integrity. His reputation, if anything, was enhanced by how he handled the situation. He showed that you don't need to yell or curse or make a scene to stand up for yourself. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to participate in your own mistreatment. For Tamron, the consequences were far more severe. Her show took a massive hit in the ratings. Several high-profile celebrities canceled their scheduled appearances. The network had serious discussions about whether to continue her show at all. Her brand as an interviewer was permanently tarnished. She went from being seen as a rising star in daytime television to being known as the host who disrespected Denzel Washington. All of this could have been avoided if she'd just treated her guest with basic courtesy and respect. If she'd remembered that the person sitting across from her was a human being deserving of dignity. If she'd understood that having a talk show doesn't make you better than other people, it just means you have a responsibility to use that platform wisely. But she forgot all of that. Or maybe she never understood it in the first place. And in 36 seconds of hostile questioning and disrespectful comments, she destroyed an interview that should have been a highlight of her show, and instead turned it into the biggest disaster of her career. The lesson here is simple but important. Respect is not negotiable. It doesn't matter who you are or how successful you are. You don't get to treat people badly just because you have power or a platform or an audience. And if you do treat people badly, don't be surprised when it comes back to haunt you. Denzel Washington understood this. He's always understood this. That's why he's not just a talented actor, but a respected human being. That's why people rallied to his defense so quickly and so overwhelmingly. Because everyone recognized that he was in the right and Tamron was in the wrong. It wasn't a debate. It wasn't controversial. It was obvious. This whole situation serves as a perfect example of what happens when ego overtakes professionalism. When someone becomes so convinced of their own importance that they forget basic human decency. When a host forgets that their job is to facilitate interesting conversations, not to tear their guests down to build themselves up. Tamron Hall learned that lesson the hard way, on camera, in front of millions of people. And Denzel Washington once again showed the world why he's not just one of the greatest actors of our time, but one of the most respected people in the entire entertainment industry. Not because he's perfect, but because he knows how to carry himself with dignity and grace, even in difficult situations. And that's the real story here. Not just about a talk show interview gone wrong, but about character, respect, and what happens when those things collide with ego and entitlement. It's a story that resonated with so many people because we've all been in situations where we felt disrespected or mistreated. We've all had moments where we had to decide whether to stand up for ourselves or just accept poor treatment. Denzel made the choice to stand up for himself, and he did it in a way that was firm but not cruel, assertive but not aggressive. He proved that you can maintain your dignity while still drawing clear boundaries, and in doing so, he gave everyone watching a masterclass in how to handle disrespect with class.